Good evening, this is Nerdist to Human, and welcome to this pre-release look at the battle mechanics in Manor Lords. Now, Manor Lords has been picking up a huge amount of hype over the past 3 or 4 years, and it is finally coming out in early access in April of 2024. That is not far away now, so with the game soon dropping, I thought we would take a look at how the battles are shaping up. Manor Lords is principally a medieval city builder, but the inclusion of battle mechanics has really helped to grow interest from within the Total War community. And seeing as Total War fans are certainly disgruntled at recent efforts from the franchise, I would say there is a lot of room for Manor Lords to fill a niche within real-time battle genre and help scratch that Total War itch. Now, this channel is traditionally a Total War channel, and as such I will generally reference Medieval to Total War in comparison, as it is the Total War game that best fits the time period of Manor Lords and has some of the best battle gameplay out there. Now, this is a game from 2006, of course, so in some ways any game that's trying to take medieval battle simulation at all seriously needs to be matching or improving on the features that we saw in the classic of Medieval 2. So, whilst I want to look at Manor Lords battles on their own merits, the comparison is pretty relevant to those of us who are particularly excited for the battle part of the game. And I should say from the off that I haven't played the game as of yet. I am basing my opinions from the trailers and the gameplay footage of other channels. It is all pre-release, so there's a fair chance that improvements and or changes have been made since then. So let's take us through the trailers and I'll break down my thoughts bit by bit because there are some features I absolutely love. We'll start with the battle trailer. Okay, if I just pause it there, the customizing units. Now, this is certainly a nice and fun thing to have. I think this is going to help immerse players into their own roleplay. Now, of course, building your own town, as in Manor Lords, you can really make it feel like your own army. So I do feel like, customizing the units is going to feel better placed here than in, say, historical Total War. And designs are still meant to be historically accurate, of course, but the non-precise location of the game kind of helps the customization feel like sensible player agency, and this can really make the game more playful, and I'm quite happy that it's taken this route. Now, formation dragging, this is going to be an absolute necessity. Don't need to say too much on this, but hopefully it's going to be pretty quick and simple to use. They've had all sorts of formations and preset formations in Total War for a long time. So, as I say, an absolute necessity, but hopefully we'll see plenty of fun details when the game comes out proper. And likewise, this Waypoint system is great. Now, in Total War, you kind of had to do quite a lot of micromanagement to get a unit to arc around like that, because to swing all the way around in Total War, you'd have to send them out to one flank, wait till they got there, give them another instruction. And okay, Total War does actually have a command using shift and right click, and you can kind of order up different commands like that, but it's not really so useful in an active battle situation like this. It's really more for maneuvering around the map, maneuvering around cities. It's a bit cumbersome in this kind of a situation. So in short, I like the look of this Waypoint system. Okay, the charge impact. This is going to be massive. So scale is going to be smaller than Rome Total War, Medieval 2 Total War. So what we are seeing is more localized town v town fighting, and this is no problem to me. I like a small scale to my battles, but it does have less room to hide. The scale of thousands of men fighting can hide detail behind the sheer spectacle. But for these battles to work on this smaller scale, the mechanics really need to be solid. I kind of said at the start, where if you're going to try and recreate these medieval battles in a game like this, which is first and foremost a city builder, but with battles in them, then you really need to get it right. You can't go half-assed on this. You need to go the full hog. So, the scale, it being smaller, means that it's going to have to be really good mechanically. Now, charging the weight of units pushing is absolutely integral to Total War feeling right. Hundreds of men pushing through the gate against a mere 50 or so will soon knock them back. They shouldn't be stuck fighting 1v1 until the 50 men have been killed. Those 50 men are going to be pushed by the sheer weight of the mass of units. So getting this right is going to be big, and it's hard to say where we're at with this until we play with different units and really feel the collision in action. But the discussion around this is at least encouraging, to say the least. Okay, the animations. Now, Medieval 2 Total War was pretty good for this. The battles were often long slugging matches, heavily armoured troops, so battles would be far longer lasting than, say, in Rome Total War, where it was all about morale. It gave you time, though, in those longer battles to really watch the animations and enjoy the viewer experience. And between Rome Total War and Medieval 2 Total War, I think they made the animations a little bit better. It felt a little bit more true. So I think with this game here, I suspect Manor Lords is going to expect you to have periods where your tactical deployment is done and you're simply going to be watching parts of the battle and see how it plays out. So I think this spectacle is going to be an important part. Now, I'm happy enough with the way that this is looking right now. If I'm honest with you, I kind of like that we can see things like the shield wall formation working as a single unit, and the fact that it's not immediately breaking down to 1v1, you can see that they are working as a bit of a unit. That's good to see. I think there's always going to be a bit of jank to animations like this in any game, but so long as the combat feels intuitive, the actual, moving units around, the charge, the weight of things, I'm kind of happy for there to be some fun animations, some killing animations, and that kind of thing can bring the battle to life. So height advantage. Now this is an interesting one because, yeah, this is a must if you want the battles to feel, or to not feel gimmicky, or dare I say, like an arcade style. Now, I'm not clear on whether, say, missiles have a huge advantage at, say, like in Total War, because you really notice how much those hills make a big difference. I certainly hope so. You can see here that they're charging up the hill. So I guess what they're trying to show here is a shield wall up on the hill. Yeah, you're going to have a very good advantage. It says terrain slope +1 there on the screen. So yeah, we can see that is going to give us some kind of positive. And it's actually giving you a number, which you don't necessarily see all the time on Total War. So I like the look of that. A battle simulation really goes from like RTS style to that Total War style when you can get your strategic positioning on the battle map correct. So if you're going to have a pretty battle map and it's going to have hills and trees and forests and all of that, well, they're going to need to mean something. And this at least gives me encouragement that we're hopefully going to see some of that in Manor Lords. So, marching in loose or tight formations. This is fairly standard and sensible, but it is good to see. But I'm really intrigued to see how loose formation affects the missiles, for example. So are the missiles going to miss because there is just organically more space between units, so less missiles are going to hit, as in Medieval 2, for example? Or will they have a set percentage, say like in Three Kingdoms? And this is where Total War got a little bit arbitrary in some elements for me, because that just didn't feel right. I really hope that the advantage of loose formation lies in the literal mechanics of the space between the units rather than just a percentage shift, because, as I say, it just feels arbitrary. It doesn't quite work. And there is a tooltip visible in this clip, but it doesn't specify a percentage. So I'm hopeful on this front, but I guess we'll see when we get into the action and really start playing the battles. Okay, these melee stances are really exciting, I think. Now, alright, push is a fairly unremarkable thing. Any attacking unit in Total War is automatically push, even if it's not stated as a stance. It's just the typical stance for attacking. Now, when there was guard mode, which would inversely hold the ground. But give ground and tactical retreat that we see here, well, that's exciting. It's something that I always wished was in Total War sooner. So when I play as Hannibal's Carthaginians, for example, in Rome, I want the centre of the line to give ground so that the envelopment can be completed like in historical Cannae. Here we might just be able to do it with these stances. In fairness, Total War Pharaoh did include stances like retreat stance, so one good thing to come out of Pharaoh is seen immediately in Manor Lords, and that's great to see. It gives the player more agency to roleplay really, and just vary up your tactics. Now, here for example in my Medieval 2 game, I tried to pull back some exhausted units, but they remain stuck in combat or simply rout at the very moment you tell them to retreat. It's so rare to switch out to fresh units without seeing the other unit break, which has always frustrated me, so I'm really excited for this organised retreat feature. I think it's going to give you so many more options in your battles. So this Volley and Quickdraw. Now, I haven't spotted a tooltip that really clarifies the difference, although there are logical inferences that you can make, of course. Either way, variation is always nice as long as there aren't overwhelming amount of options, so I'm interested to see where this one goes. I thought I'd just pause actually a second later after those arches because we get a lot of information on the screen here and I think it's intriguing to have a look. So a main bit of UI tells us morale, fatigue and unity. They all seem like pretty sensible metrics to assess how a unit's doing. They're all part of the main UI and that is absolutely great. Look at the long list on the side though, that's intriguing. Now there is one thing here I just want to really bring up, which is their HP there, 85. Now HP worries me a bit as I very much like the old school Total War style of each soldier being an individual and not dying simply because enough HP of the unit had fallen. Now this is a major change that occurred in Rome 2 Total War and was the moment that many people felt that battles started to lose something intangible. It's not true for everyone, it's certainly true for me, and it's too big of a discussion for here really, but Volley does discuss the single entity problem at length in another video, and to understand what I mean about HP, I would say watch that video. Now until I play Manor Lords, I don't know how this system is going to feel, so I won't be too concerned at a stat on the screen at this point, but it's something I'm curious about, and if we're trying to learn where this game can get things right from Total War, that single entity problem is something that we really need to keep an eye on. Impactful weather. Now this one's interesting because Total War Pharaoh, the most recent Total War game, made a big song and dance about the weather effects. It was a bit disingenuous to me as there were various features at the start of the franchise with units gain or lose in effectiveness according to terrain type. Even though the tooltip only gives you a couple details inside the game, hidden within the game code here, you can see that this Mongol Horse Archer unit gains itself 0 for scrub and sand, but -6 for forest battle and +1 for the snow. However, what Pharaoh did was to add more to this, as we're seeing here in Manor Lords with archers getting -4 in the rain. I can see that morale is also going down by 1, which is simple to implement and logical. All of this really adds to the immersion, so I am all for it. I assume that cavalry are bogged down by the soggy terrain, just as in Pharaoh, and weather features are definitely nice to have, but how much control we're going to have over the weather, I'm not so sure. I always appreciated the 3 clicks in Total War at the beginning of a battle to kind of let the day pass and see if you could get more favourable weather. For example, like raining in a siege would help prevent my siege gear from burning down, and the game always felt far more realistic for this. And the last thing for this particular trailer is the fatigue, which it just really brings up at the very end, although it has come up in the tooltips earlier on in the video. And this is going to be key, of course, because if you want to make this game realistic, then of course exhausted men are going to fight less effectively and are going to rout more easily. The game would be poor without this feature. How it's going to be fully implemented, I'm yet to see, but I'm certainly happy to see it's fairly prominent in the UI info. Bringing us to the website, it does state the time frame is going to be about the same as Medieval 2 Total War, 11th to 15th century, although there's been quite a bit of talk about this becoming specifically the 14th century to hone in on historical accuracy. Now, considering the time period, there's also been a lot of discussion around gunpowder units, but I'm yet to see any signs of it in gameplay footage, and discourse around the game seems to have led it to be left out, at least at first. I can understand leaving out gunpowder as the game is more than just the battles, and gunpowder adds a whole new dimension into things. Although, as you may well know from my Total War campaigns, I do love gunpowder units in this time period. It is very fun. Do let me know where you stand on the debate. I could go either way on this one. Interestingly though, down here on the large scale battle section, it does say that it intends on having them in the final game. So yes, gunpowders and siege engines, trebuchets are a work in progress and will certainly be present in the final game. So that should be exciting. Whether we'll see it at the start or not, it seems pretty unlikely, but I'd like to see where that goes eventually. Now, this game has certainly taken some time to come together. and has been big on community feedback, so this decision may have been changed through the years. Time will tell.
Here we go, boys! To arms, men!
Okay, so city fighting. We can see here on the release date announcement trailer that they showed a little clip here of a battle going on actually in your town itself, which is completely logical, makes absolute sense. Now, street fighting will be an interesting look into how other pathfinding works on this game, which is notoriously awkward in Medieval 2. Now, actually, the towns themselves they have a really nice organic feel to them. Things like the actual roads appearing on the wider map look amazing, so I'm hoping that the pathfinding makes sense in this battle situation too. But yeah, notoriously awkward in Medieval 2, particularly in the cities. So I certainly think the battles in the towns are going to add a lot of drama to the battles. I'm all for this. I want to fight for every building that I've set up, and when you've spent all the time building this city for yourself, oh yeah, we're going to be so much more invested in these battles. There are some really nice banners visible, which is great. What kind of medieval battle simulation would it be without a great selection of banners to be held in battle? However, there is one small gripe I have here, and I'm just going to point this out, which is, okay, when we've got this unit selected here, these 21 men, they have the little rings around them, and it's a similar thing to in Medieval 2 Total War. That's fine. But in Total War, you normally have yourselves your banner flashing, bouncing up and down, making it really clear which unit or units you've got selected. And okay, maybe these rings are going to be enough on a smaller scale like this, but I don't know, to me I feel like I like that banner. It just makes things a little bit clearer. In fact, Medieval 2 actually has different shape banners for different types of units. Archers are triangular, cavalry with horizontal rectangles, and infantry with vertical rectangular banners. It's the sort of detail that can be missed, but it's really appreciated if you notice that kind of thing. Finally, we'll come on to the gameplay overview trailer, because this one has, well, various different bits of the game to be discussed. Different regions, taxes and economy, influence around the map with other factions. But yeah, you'll notice here militia and the Lord's Retinue. Basically, the army stuff is the most replayed part of the video. People are skipping forward to this part because apparently this is what everyone wants to know about. So that's why we're talking about it here today. So this one actually has a bit of talking in it, so I'll let you watch it through properly before I then have my little chit chat afterwards.
If you want better militia, you must train them at the training camp or the archery range. The second type of recruits are mercenaries. They cost silver and a lot of it. The last type is Lord's Retinue. This is a limited, heavily armoured unit that you can customise to your liking.
This variety all seems very logical and fits the historical focus of the game. Obviously, you're going to have a big pile of militia by and large, and that has been a big part of what we've seen in the gameplay footage so far. But of course, there are going to be the likes of the mercenaries and the flock of crazy goose. I can't get over that's an excellent name. In fact, the goose seems to be hanging from a noose, and who can say that that is not just the most brilliant thing they've seen all day. So I'm very much in for the mercenaries. Excellent stuff. Gives you variety of troops, albeit, you know, you're going to need the money to spend on all of that stuff. But of course, the retinue, they are the people that I think people are most excited about. It's going to give more flexibility and customization. Now, okay, on Medieval 2, for example, I love playing as the Saxons. Now, certainly with a little bit of modding to make them playable, of course, but in part I enjoy playing as them because I can choose to use infantry generals to guard or even assault the walls with them. It's absolutely brutal. It makes a really nice change from the usual gameplay. So I'm really excited, for example, with these here Knights of Apollo. You can choose how you're going to use this unit. I might want to have myself an infantry general for, you know, the big siege assault. But you know what? If I'm just in the field, I might want to be knights. I might want to change around the armour, change around the weaponry. And that's great. I think people are really going to like that. And it really works well when you're not in the historical context. Because in Total War games, in historical Total War, you will generally have armour and general styles that fit the context. So when I'm playing as the Saxons, I'm going to be an infantry general. When I'm playing as the Normans, no, I'm now on horseback. And that makes total sense. But In this game, you're building your own village, your own little fiefdom, whatever the technical phrase we're going to be using here. Yeah, you'll want to have a bit of control, a bit of design for yourself. So I think it's going to be a really interesting little feature. Thank you for joining me on this exploration of Manor Lords. I'm certainly looking forward to the game's release. So if you are new here, then do expect to see more on Manor Lords in the near future. And do comment down below to tell me what features excite you most about this game, because it certainly seems to be creating a buzz. And as someone who loves city builders and Total War, this just looks perfect. Lastly, a big thank you to all my members and patrons. I can only begin to start making more varied videos like this one because of your fabulous support, so I cannot thank you enough. And if you'd like to join yourself, then there are links in the description below. There are various perks for all of our members. For now though, I, Nerds the Human, will leave you. Thank you for watching, friends, and bye bye. At some point, you're going to have to face it, lads. Go home. Go home. Yes, that's what we needed. Down goes the tower. Can they take out number 1 and do something useful for the first time in all of Total War history? The answer is no.